Our story begins, as many do, with a vision of absolute perfection. Sarah, vibrant and glowing, her hands gently cradling the subtle curve of her growing belly, believed she had it all. A loving husband, Mark, who doted on her with an almost obsessive tenderness, a beautiful home nestled in a quiet, tree-lined suburb, and the most anticipated gift of all, their first child, due in just a few short months. Their life was a tapestry woven with threads of shared laughter, whispered dreams, and the quiet certainty of a future built together. Every morning, Mark would bring her a cup of freshly brewed tea, just the way she liked it, a small ritual that spoke volumes of his affection. Every evening, he'd sit beside her on the sofa, his hand resting protectively on her stomach, talking to their unborn baby, sharing his hopes and dreams for this new life. Sarah would watch him, a warmth spreading through her chest, convinced that she was the luckiest woman alive. She would often find herself lost in thought, picturing their nursery, painted a soft, calming shade of lavender, filled with plush toys and tiny clothes. She imagined their child's first steps, their first words, the way Mark's eyes would light up with pride. These were not just dreams, they were certainties, etched into the very fabric of their shared existence. But sometimes, the most beautiful tapestries hide the most insidious unraveling threads. The first sign, in hindsight, was so subtle, so easily dismissed, that Sarah barely registered it. A fleeting flicker of something in Mark's eyes, a shadow that crossed his face when she spoke of their future with an unshakable optimism. He'd brush it off, a quick smile, a reassuring squeeze of her hand, attributing it to stress at work or the natural anxieties of impending fatherhood. And Sarah, enveloped in her own bubble of burgeoning motherhood, accepted these explanations without question. Why wouldn't she? Mark had always been her rock, her confidant, her unwavering partner in everything. Their relationship was built on a foundation of trust so deep, so absolute, that the very notion of betrayal was an alien concept, one that simply couldn't exist within the boundaries of their love. The late nights began to stretch longer, the work emergencies becoming more frequent. Mark, always meticulous about his schedule, would suddenly be unreachable for hours, his phone mysteriously dead, only to reappear with a plausible, if slightly vague, explanation. Sarah, in her pregnant state, found herself more tired, more prone to emotional swings, and therefore, more willing to believe. She told herself it was the pressure of providing for their growing family, the demands of his high-pressure job. She would even feel a pang of guilt for her brief moments of doubt, quickly pushing them away, chastising herself for being so insecure. She reminded herself of all the times Mark had gone above and beyond for her, the surprise weekend getaways, the thoughtful gifts, the unwavering support through morning sickness and fatigue. He was a good man, a loving husband, and soon, he would be an incredible father. Her mind, ever eager to protect the sanctity of her perfect world, rationalized every inconsistency, every small deviation from their norm. She was so consumed with the miracle growing inside her, with the immense joy and slight trepidation of becoming a mother, that her capacity to see beyond the surface was severely diminished. Her focus was inward, on the tiny kicks and flutters, on the preparations for the baby's arrival, on the boundless love she already felt. Then came the day, an ordinary Tuesday, that would irrevocably shatter her meticulously constructed reality. Sarah was nesting, a powerful urge to organize and clean seizing her with an almost frenzied intensity. She was tidying Mark's study, a room usually off-limits to her because, as he always joked, he preferred to maintain his creative chaos. But today, she was on a mission. Dusting shelves, sorting through old files, a sense of purpose driving her through the mundane tasks. She stumbled upon a small, ornate wooden box tucked away in the back of his desk drawer, beneath a stack of financial statements. It was unfamiliar, an elegant, darkly polished box, completely out of character for Mark's usual utilitarian belongings. A faint tremor of unease rippled through her. Curiosity, a dangerous and potent force, compelled her to pick it up. It wasn't locked. With a hesitant breath, she lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was a small, crudely drawn picture of a child, perhaps 5 or 6 years old, with bright, inquisitive eyes and a mischievous smile. The child had Mark's distinct dimple, a feature Sarah adored. Below the drawing, a worn, silver locket. Her heart began to pound, a frantic drumbeat against her ribs. This wasn't a picture of a nephew, or a friend's child. This child looked so much like Mark. Too much. A cold dread, sharper and more piercing than anything she had ever felt, began to spread through her veins. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with the locket, her fingers clumsy with shock. It sprang open to reveal two tiny, faded photographs. One, unmistakably, was Mark, younger, with a carefree smile she hadn't seen in years, his arm wrapped around a woman Sarah didn't recognize. The other, a close-up of the same child from the drawing, looking directly into the camera, a striking resemblance to Mark undeniable. The air in the room seemed to thicken, pressing down on her, stealing her breath. The quiet hum of the refrigerator, the distant chirping of birds outside, all faded into an oppressive silence. Her mind, usually so clear and rational, raced, trying desperately to construct an alternative explanation, any explanation, that didn't lead to the dark abyss forming before her. A long-lost cousin. A child from a past relationship he'd never mentioned. A child that surely would have been brought up before marriage? No. The drawing, the locket, the way it was hidden. This wasn't an innocent memento. This was a secret. A profound, life-altering secret. And the child. The child had to be his. The implications hit her with the force of a physical blow. A child. Mark had a child. And she, his wife, carrying his second child, had absolutely no idea. The betrayal wasn't just a crack in their foundation. It was a gaping chasm, swallowing their entire history, their present, and their carefully planned future. The perfect life she had so lovingly envisioned, the dream she had nurtured with such tender care, lay in shattered fragments around her. Her hands flew to her belly, a primal urge to protect the innocent life within her from the venomous truth that had just seeped into her world. Tears, hot and stinging, welled in her eyes, blurring her vision, but she couldn't look away from the undeniable evidence in her trembling hands. Hours passed, or perhaps only minutes. Time ceased to have meaning. Sarah remained frozen, the box clutched to her chest, the truth a burning ember in her gut. She replayed every moment of their 7 years together, scrutinizing every word, every gesture, searching for clues she had missed, for the lies hidden beneath the veneer of love. His work trips that always seemed to coincide with school holidays. His occasional disappearances, explained away as mental health days or unexpected client meetings. The way he sometimes looked distant, withdrawn, as if carrying a heavy burden she couldn't share. All these small, seemingly insignificant pieces now clicked into place, forming a horrifying mosaic of deceit. She felt foolish, naive, utterly blind. How could she have been so oblivious? How could the man she loved, the man who was supposed to be her soulmate, have kept such an enormous, fundamental part of his life from her? When Mark finally arrived home, the familiar sound of his key in the lock sent a fresh wave of panic and rage coursing through her. She was still in his study, the box still in her hands, her face undoubtedly streaked with tears, her eyes swollen and red. She didn't move, couldn't move, rooted to the spot by a potent cocktail of shock and fury. He walked in, his usual cheerful greeting dying on his lips as he took in her devastated appearance, the open box, the incriminating contents. His face, usually so open and kind, drained of all color. A mask of guilt, fear, and profound regret instantly replaced his usual composure. He knew. He knew she knew. The unspoken accusation hung heavy in the air, a suffocating presence. Sarah. What? What is this? He stammered, his voice barely a whisper, though the question was rhetorical. He knew exactly what it was. She didn't speak. She couldn't. Her throat was tight, choked with unshed tears and a torrent of unspoken accusations. She simply held out the box, her hand shaking so violently that the contents rattled ominously. His eyes, wide with terror, fixed on the drawing, then the locket. He swallowed hard, his atoms apple-bobbing. Sarah, please. Let me explain. Explain. Her voice, when it finally emerged, was a raw, guttural sound, barely recognizable as her own. Explain what, Mark? Explain how you have a secret child. Explain how you've lied to me, to us, for years. Explain how you could stand there, day after day, week after week, touching my belly, talking to our baby, knowing you already had another one you kept hidden. Explain that. Her voice rose with each question, escalating into a furious crescendo, the words tearing at her throat. The sheer audacity, the profound cruelty of his deception, was an abyss she couldn't comprehend. She felt the baby kick, a gentle flutter against her hand, a poignant reminder of the innocent life caught in the crossfire of this devastating revelation. Mark took a hesitant step towards her, his hand outstretched, but she recoiled as if burned. Don't touch me, she shrieked, her voice cracking with pain. Don't you dare touch me, You liar. How could you? How could you do this to me? To us? To our baby? He visibly flinched, his hand dropping to his side. His eyes pleaded with her, filled with a desperate, pathetic sorrow. Sarah, please, just listen. It's not what you think. It's complicated. Complicated, she scoffed, a bitter, humorless laugh escaping her lips. Complicated. A secret child is not complicated, Mark. It's a lie. A fundamental, unforgivable lie. Tell me, how long? How long have you been living this double life? He sank into the nearest chair, burying his face in his hands, his broad shoulders shaking. The sight, usually a source of comfort and concern, now only fueled her indignation. It was the posture of a guilty man, not a confused one. Her name is Emily, he mumbled, his voice muffled by his hands. She's 6. 6. 6 years. That meant she was born before Sarah and Mark had even met, or perhaps very early in their relationship. The timeline was crucial, yet offered little solace. The fact remained that he had withheld this monumental truth from her for their entire relationship, through their courtship, their engagement, their wedding vows, and now, through her pregnancy. Each milestone, each promise, each declaration of love now felt tainted, a cruel mockery. 6 years. Sarah repeated, her voice laced with incredulity and a growing sense of nausea. You've known about her for 6 years? And you never, not once, thought to tell me? Your wife. The woman carrying your child. He slowly lifted his head, his eyes red-rimmed and filled with a pain that, for a fleeting moment, almost mirrored her own. It happened before you, Sarah. Long before you. It was a mistake, a one-night stand when I was young and foolish. I barely knew her mother. She didn't tell me about Emily until she was almost a year old. I was shocked. I wanted to tell you, so many times, but I didn't know how. I was so afraid I'd lose you. I love you, Sarah. I love you more than anything. His words, meant to soothe, only ignited a fresh wave of fury. You love me. Is this how you show love, Mark? By building our entire relationship on a foundation of deceit? By letting me live a fantasy while you harbored this colossal secret? You were afraid to lose me? So you chose to lie to me instead? To let me fall deeper and deeper in love with a man who wasn't truly honest with me? The pain was unbearable, a physical ache in her chest that spread through her entire body. Her vision tunneled, the world narrowing to Mark's pleading face, the accusing box in her hands, and the insistent flutter of life within her. I tried to tell you, he insisted, his voice cracking. I wrote letters, I rehearsed conversations in my head. But every time, the words died in my throat. How do you tell the woman you love, the woman you're building a future with, that you have a child with someone else, from a past you never fully disclosed? I was a coward, Sarah. I admit it. A complete and utter coward. But it was out of fear, not malice. I never stopped loving you. Emily was. She was a separate part of my life, a responsibility I had to uphold, but it never diminished my feelings for you. A separate part of your life. Her voice was a low, dangerous growl. A separate part of your life? Mark, she is your daughter. A human being. Not a forgotten hobby. You have a child, and you kept her a secret from the woman you married. How could you even look at yourself in the mirror? How could you share a bed with me, knowing this? Every kiss, every touch, every word of love. It all feels like a lie now. The weight of the betrayal was crushing. It wasn't just the existence of the child. It was the years of deliberate concealment, the active choice to deceive her. It was the stark realization that the man she thought she knew, the man she had trusted implicitly, was a stranger capable of a profound and devastating lie. She started to pace, her movements agitated, her mind a whirlwind of confusion, anger, and profound sadness. And what about Emily? Does she know about me? Does she know about her father's secret family? Or are you just some distant figure in her life, too? What kind of father are you, Mark? What kind of man are you? His head snapped up, a flicker of something resembling indignation in his eyes. I am a good father to Emily, Sarah. I see her every weekend. I pay for her schooling, her clothes, everything she needs. I've always been there for her. Her mother and I, we have a civil arrangement. We co-parent. She knows about you, she knows I'm married, but she doesn't know about the baby yet. I was going to tell her. I was going to tell everyone. I was waiting for the right time. The right time, she echoed, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. The right time. When our baby was already here. When I was too vulnerable, too deeply invested, to leave. Was that your plan, Mark? To trap me with a child, then spring your secret family on me? No. Never, he cried, scrambling to his feet, his face contorted with anguish. Sarah, you have to believe me. I wanted to tell you before we got married, then before the pregnancy. But then you were pregnant, and I thought, how can I drop this on her now? It would be too much. I was going to find a way, I swear. I was just terrified of losing you. The thought of a life without you, without our child. It was unbearable. Unbearable, she repeated, her voice shaking. What about my life, Mark? What about the unbearable pain you've just inflicted on me? On our baby? Do you think this is healthy for me? For the baby? The stress, the shock, the heartbreak. How dare you put me through this? How dare you make me question everything I thought was true? She felt a sharp pain in her abdomen, a tightening sensation that made her gasp. Her hands flew to her belly again, her heart pounding with a new fear. The baby. Her precious, innocent baby. This stress, this anguish, could it harm her? The thought sent a fresh wave of terror through her, eclipsing even the rage for a moment. Sarah, are you okay? Mark rushed towards her, his face now etched with genuine concern, but she pushed him away with surprising force. Don't touch me. Just don't. I need to think. I need to breathe. Get out. Get out of my sight. He stood there, frozen, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. Sarah, please, don't say that. Where would I go? This is our home. It's not our home anymore, Mark. It's a house built on lies. Just go. I can't look at you right now. I can't even stand to be in the same room as you. He hesitated, then with a defeated sigh, slowly turned and walked out of the study. She heard the front door click shut moments later. The silence that followed was deafening, a hollow echo in the vast emptiness that had suddenly become her life. She sank to the floor, the wooden box clattering beside her, the picture of Emily staring up at her with innocent, curious eyes. The pain was no longer just emotional. It was physical, a deep, pervasive ache that settled in her bones. She closed her eyes, trying to block out the images, the words, the crushing reality, but it was no use. Her mind replayed the scene over and over, dissecting every word, every gesture, searching for a crumb of truth, a sliver of hope, anything to lessen the impact of the blow. But there was nothing. Only the cold, hard fact of his deception. The next few days were a blur of tears, sleepless nights, and the agonizing weight of a decision she wasn't ready to make. Mark tried to call, text, even came back to the house, but she refused to see him, refused to answer. Her sister, Emily, who lived a few towns over, eventually came to check on her after Sarah hadn't returned her calls. The moment Sarah saw her, the dam burst. She collapsed into her sister's arms, sobbing uncontrollably, the entire horrifying story tumbling out in ragged, broken sentences. Emily, protective and fiercely loyal, was incandescent with rage on her behalf. She held Sarah, comforting her, but her eyes held a dangerous glint. He's a monster, Sarah, Emily declared, her voice low and furious. How could he do this to you? Especially now, while you're pregnant. This is unforgivable. Sarah could only nod, her mind too numb to fully process the righteous anger her sister felt. She was just adrift, lost in a sea of despair. Emily helped her pack a small bag, insisting she come stay with her. Sarah was too weak, too overwhelmed to resist. Leaving their home, the place that had been a sanctuary of their love, felt like a final, definitive severing, a concession to the brutal reality that their life as she knew it was over. Every step out the door felt like a betrayal of her own dreams, of the future she had so carefully constructed. At her sister's house, Sarah found a fragile sense of refuge, though the torment of her thoughts continued unabated. She spent hours staring blankly at walls, her mind replaying Mark's confession, Emily's innocent face, the betrayal. Her sister handled all communications with Mark, informing him that Sarah needed space, that she was safe, but that he was not to contact her directly. Mark, according to Emily, was distraught, begging for a chance to explain, to make amends. But Sarah couldn't bring herself to listen. The wounds were too fresh, too deep. The thought of facing him, of hearing his voice, filled her with a profound nausea. The emotional toll began to manifest physically. Her appetite vanished, replaced by a constant queasy feeling. The sharp pains in her abdomen became more frequent, more intense, sending waves of panic through her. Emily, noticing her sister's deteriorating condition, insisted she see her obstetrician. The doctor, a kind and experienced woman named Dr. Evans, listened patiently as Sarah, through choked sobs, recounted the devastating revelation. Dr. Evans was gentle but firm. "Sarah, this level of stress is not good for you or the baby. We need to monitor you closely. We need to make sure you're taking care of yourself, even when it feels impossible." She prescribed a mild sedative to help her sleep and urged her to consider therapy. The next few weeks were a hazy blur of appointments, crying spells, and a desperate struggle to eat and rest. The therapist, Dr. Ramirez, was a calm, steady presence. She encouraged Sarah to articulate her feelings, to process the layers of grief, anger, and fear. Sarah spoke of the initial shock, the feeling of her world imploding. She spoke of the profound betrayal, the sense of being duped, of having her love and trust exploited. But most agonizingly, she spoke of Emily, the secret child. "It's not her fault," Sarah confessed to Dr. Ramirez, tears streaming down her face. "She's an innocent child. She looks so much like him. I see her face in my mind, and I feel a pang of something. Not anger at her, but a profound sadness for her. For all of us. She's a living embodiment of his lie." "And what about your feelings for Mark?" Dr. Ramirez asked gently. "That's the hardest part," Sarah admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I still love him. Or at least, I love the man I thought he was. The man who brought me tea every morning, who talked to our baby, who promised me forever. But that man, he doesn't exist. He was a carefully constructed facade. And now, all I see is the liar, the betrayer. How do you reconcile those two images? How do you love someone who has shattered your soul?" The dilemma was agonizing. On one hand, the visceral pain of his betrayal screamed at her to leave, to sever all ties, to protect herself and her unborn child from further heartbreak. On the other hand, the deep, enduring love she had for Mark, the years of shared history, the dreams they had built together, tugged at her heart, begging for reconciliation, for a chance to salvage what was left. And then there was the baby. Their baby. The thought of raising a child without a father, or with a father who had proven himself capable of such deceit, filled her with dread. But could she truly forgive him? Could she ever trust him again? Could she ever look at him and not see the ghost of Emily, the secret child, standing between them? Her family and friends were divided. Emily, her sister, urged her to leave him. "He clearly has a pattern of deception, Sarah. You deserve better. Your baby deserves better. Don't let him manipulate you back into a situation that will only cause you more pain." Her best friend, Jessica, echoed similar sentiments, emphasizing Sarah's strength and independence. But her mother, a more traditional woman, urged caution. "Marriage is a sacred bond, dear. People make mistakes. Especially men. Perhaps he truly regrets it. Think about the baby, about keeping your family together." The conflicting advice only added to her confusion. She was adrift in a sea of opinions, her own compass shattered. She needed to make a decision, but every path seemed fraught with pain and uncertainty. One evening, after a particularly draining therapy session, Sarah realized she needed to face Mark. Not to reconcile, not to forgive, but to understand. To get the full story, unvarnished, from his lips. She needed to look into his eyes and see if there was any flicker of the man she loved, or only the hollow shell of a liar. She called him, her voice trembling as she spoke his name. He answered instantly, his voice hoarse with what sounded like genuine relief and desperation. They agreed to meet at a neutral location, a quiet cafe far from their home, the next afternoon. The hours leading up to the meeting were filled with a suffocating anxiety. She rehearsed scenarios in her head, envisioned arguments, prepared herself for more lies, for more pain. She dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that made her feel strong, despite the tremor in her hands. She wanted to present herself as a woman who was hurt, yes, but not broken. A woman who was capable of making her own decisions. When she walked into the cafe, Mark was already there, hunched over a cup of untouched coffee, his face drawn and pale, dark circles under his eyes. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. He stood as she approached, his gaze filled with a mixture of hope and terror. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. She took the seat opposite him, her eyes fixed on his, searching for something, anything. "Mark," she replied, her voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil raging within her. "I need to know everything. No more half-truths, no more omissions. The whole story. From the very beginning." He nodded, swallowing hard. He began to speak, his voice low and hesitant at first, then gaining a desperate urgency as he recounted the story of Emily's conception. It was, as he had claimed, a one-night stand during a particularly turbulent period of his life, before he had met Sarah. A period of loneliness and poor choices. He had met Emily's mother, Clara, at a bar. They had a fleeting connection, a regrettable night, and then went their separate ways. He never expected to hear from her again. Almost a year later, Clara contacted him, dropping the bombshell. She had a baby girl, Emily, and Mark was the father. He remembered the shock, the disbelief, the sudden, crushing weight of responsibility. "I didn't know what to do, Sarah," he explained, his eyes pleading with her. "I was so young, so unprepared. But I knew I had a daughter. I had to be there for her. Clara and I, we never had a romantic relationship. It was always strictly about Emily. We tried to make it work, for Emily's sake, but it was clear we weren't compatible. We decided to co-parent. I see Emily every weekend, sometimes during the week. I'm involved in her life. I love her, Sarah. She's my daughter." Sarah listened, her face expressionless, her heart a tangled knot of emotions. She could see the pain in his eyes, the genuine love he had for Emily. But that didn't erase the years of lies. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked again, her voice a fragile whisper. "When we started dating. When we got serious. Before we got married. Any of those times, Mark, would have been better than this. Than finding out the way I did." He sighed, a deep, rattling sound that seemed to come from the very depths of his soul. I know, Sarah. And there's no excuse. I was scared. Terrified. Every time I thought about it, my mind would race. How would you react? Would you leave me? Would you think less of me? I convinced myself that if you knew, you wouldn't want to be with me. I was so madly in love with you, so desperate to keep you, that I made the worst decision of my life. I chose fear over honesty, and I've regretted it every single day since. He reached across the table, his hand hovering, seeking hers, but she kept her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, Sarah. I know I've shattered your trust, betrayed everything we built. But please, I'm begging you. Give me a chance to earn it back. Give us a chance. I will do anything. Anything to make this right. I'll go to therapy. I'll be completely transparent. I'll involve you in Emily's life if you want. I want to be a family, Sarah. All of us. You, me, our baby, and Emily. I know it's a lot to ask, but please, don't throw everything away." His words were a torrent of desperate pleas, filled with remorse and a raw vulnerability that was almost unbearable to witness. She saw the tears welling in his eyes, felt the tremor in his voice. He was truly broken. But was his brokenness enough to mend her own? Could she truly believe his promises? Could she ever trust him again, knowing the depth of his capacity for deception? What about Clara? Sarah asked, changing the subject, needing to understand every facet of this complex situation. What's her involvement? Is she aware of your secrecy? Mark shook his head. Clara knows about you, that I'm married. She's always been respectful of our relationship. She doesn't know about the extent of my secrecy with you, though. She knows I haven't introduced you to Emily yet, but she assumes it's because we're taking things slow. She's a good mother, Sarah. She's never tried to cause problems. Our only focus has always been Emily's well-being. He paused, then added, "She knows about our baby too. I told her a few weeks ago that I was expecting another child. She was surprised, but understanding. She wished us well. She's a good person, Sarah. This isn't her fault. This is all on me." The mention of Clara knowing about their baby, while Sarah herself was still oblivious to Emily, twisted the knife deeper. He had been sharing parts of his life with others, weaving a complex web of truths and lies, while she remained in the dark, believing in a perfect, untarnished reality. The conversation stretched for hours, delving into every corner of his secret life, every difficult decision, every agonizing moment of concealment. Sarah listened, numb, absorbing the information, trying to piece together the fragments of a life she now realized was far more complicated than she had ever imagined. She asked about Emily's personality, her interests, her favorite things. She asked about his weekends with her, the challenges of co-parenting, the details of his financial support. She needed to know everything, to build a complete picture of this child who was now irrevocably linked to her own future. He answered every question, holding nothing back, his honesty now a desperate attempt to salvage what little trust remained. He showed her pictures of Emily on his phone, photos of a vibrant, happy child, playing in parks, celebrating birthdays, her bright eyes reflecting a joy that seemed so untainted by the complexities of her parents' lives. Sarah stared at the images, a profound mix of emotions swirling within her. Emily was undeniably beautiful, a mirror image of Mark in so many ways. The little girl, unaware of the storm she had inadvertently unleashed, smiled innocently from a screen, captivating Sarah with a strange, undeniable pull. When the cafe finally closed, they were the last ones there, the air thick with unspoken words and raw emotion. Sarah stood up, her body aching, her mind exhausted. "I can't give you an answer, Mark," she said, her voice hollow. "Not yet. I need more time. I need to process all of this. I need to figure out what this means for me, for our baby, for everything." He nodded, his eyes filled with a resigned sadness. "I understand, Sarah. Just don't shut me out completely. Please. I'll wait. I'll do whatever it takes." She simply turned and walked away, leaving him alone in the quiet cafe, the weight of her decision a crushing burden on her shoulders. The weeks that followed were a period of intense introspection and emotional turmoil. Sarah continued therapy, pouring out her heart to Dr. Ramirez, dissecting every facet of the situation. She talked about the anger, the betrayal, but also, surprisingly, about the burgeoning sense of empathy for Emily, the child. She realized that Emily was not a consequence of Mark's malice, but of his cowardice and a past mistake. The child was innocent, and she deserved a loving, stable environment, a father who was fully present in her life. And that father was Mark. Her own pregnancy was advancing, her belly growing rounder, her baby's kicks becoming stronger and more frequent. The reality of impending motherhood, of the profound responsibility she held, was a powerful force. She knew she couldn't make a decision based purely on anger or hurt. She had to think about her child, about their future. What kind of life did she want for her baby? A life filled with bitterness and resentment? Or a life where forgiveness, however difficult, could pave the way for a new kind of family? She started doing her own research, quietly, discreetly. She looked into co-parenting arrangements, blended families, the psychological impact of parental separation on children. She read stories of forgiveness, of couples who had navigated unimaginable betrayals and emerged stronger. She also read stories of relationships that crumbled under the weight of deceit, leaving lasting scars. There was no easy answer, no universal solution. Her situation was unique, complex, and deeply personal. One afternoon, a thought sparked in her mind, a radical idea that both terrified and intrigued her. She needed to meet Emily. Not to confront, not to accuse, but simply to see her, to understand the reality of this child who had so profoundly altered her life. She discussed the idea with Dr. Ramirez, who, after careful consideration, agreed it might be a crucial step in her healing process, provided it was handled with extreme sensitivity and clear boundaries. She called Mark, her voice surprisingly steady as she proposed the idea. He was taken aback, then a surge of hope filled his voice. "Are you sure, Sarah? Are you ready for this?" "I don't know if I'm ready," she admitted, "but I need to do it. I need to see her. I need to understand." They arranged a supervised meeting at a local park, a neutral, open space, with Clara present. Sarah insisted on it. She wanted no ambiguity, no hidden agendas. It was to be a meeting between adults, for the sake of the children. The day of the meeting was fraught with tension. Sarah dressed simply, her heart pounding with a mixture of dread and curiosity. Mark met her at the park entrance, his face a mixture of anxiety and gratitude. He looked at her, truly looked at her, and she could see the silent apology in his eyes. He introduced her to Clara, a gentle-looking woman with kind eyes and a quiet demeanor. Clara, too, seemed nervous, but offered a polite, understanding smile. Then, Emily arrived. A small, vibrant whirlwind of energy, she ran towards Mark, her face alight with joy. She was even more like him in person, with his mischievous dimple and bright, intelligent eyes. Sarah watched her, a strange ache in her chest. This was not the monster she had imagined, the shadowy figure threatening her perfect life. This was a child, full of light and innocence, completely unaware of the drama she embodied. Mark introduced Sarah to Emily as a very good friend. Sarah knelt down, offering a gentle smile. Emily, initially shy, eventually warmed to Sarah, drawn in by her quiet kindness and the gentle cadence of her voice. They spent an hour together, watching Emily play on the swings, chasing after her as she explored the playground. Sarah found herself observing Emily with a growing sense of wonder, noting her laughter, her curiosity, her simple joy. She saw Mark interacting with her, patient and loving, completely absorbed in his role as a father. It was undeniable. He was a good father to Emily. Leaving the park, Sarah felt a profound shift within her. The anger, though still present, was now tempered by a complex understanding. Emily was not a weapon wielded against her. She was a child who deserved love and stability. And Mark, despite his profound betrayal, was clearly devoted to both his daughters, the one he had and the one on the way. The lines between right and wrong, between love and betrayal, blurred into a messy, human tapestry. The decision was still agonizingly difficult. Could she build a life with a man who had lied to her so profoundly? Could she ever truly heal from the wound he had inflicted? But conversely, could she tear apart her nascent family, deprive her unborn child of a loving father, and deny Emily the chance to know her half-sibling, all because of a past mistake, however grievous? She spent another week in deep thought, consulting with her therapist, talking endlessly with her sister, who, despite her initial anger, was now offering cautious support. Sarah knew that if she chose to stay with Mark, it wouldn't be a return to their perfect life. That life was gone forever. It would be a new beginning, a conscious choice to build something different, something more complex, but perhaps, ultimately, stronger. It would require immense work, unwavering honesty from Mark, and a profound commitment to healing and rebuilding trust. It would mean embracing Emily as a part of their extended family, not as a secret or a threat. It would mean accepting that their future would be intertwined with Clara, Emily's mother, a reality she never could have envisioned. Finally, after weeks of agonizing deliberation, Sarah made her decision. She called Mark and asked him to meet her at their home. The house felt strangely quiet, echoing with the ghosts of their past and the uncertain whispers of their future. He walked in, his face etched with apprehension, bracing himself for the worst. "I've made a decision, Mark," she said, her voice soft but firm. He held his breath, his eyes fixed on hers. "I'm not going to leave you," she began, and he let out a shuddering breath of relief. "But this isn't a simple forgiveness, Mark. This is a choice to try and rebuild, but on my terms. Our terms." She looked at him directly, her eyes unwavering. "There will be no more secrets. Ever. Complete transparency. You will go to therapy, and we will go to couples therapy. We will work on rebuilding trust, piece by painful piece. Emily will be a part of our lives. Not a secret, not a burden, but a member of our family. I want to know her. I want our baby to know her. And that means a relationship with Clara as well, a respectful, cooperative co-parenting dynamic. Are you prepared for that, Mark? Are you prepared for the hard work, the difficult conversations, the complete overhaul of our lives?" Tears streamed down his face, a mixture of relief and profound remorse. He nodded vigorously, unable to speak, his emotions overwhelming him. "Yes, Sarah. Yes. 1,000 times yes. I'll do anything. I promise you, I will never, ever lie to you again. I will spend the rest of my life making this up to you. To us. To our children." She saw the sincerity in his eyes, the genuine pain, the desperate desire to make amends. It wasn't a guarantee against future pain, but it was a start. It was a foundation upon which they might, just might, be able to build something new, something real, something truly resilient. The journey that followed was long and arduous. Therapy sessions were intense, forcing Mark to confront his fears and his pattern of avoidance, and Sarah to process her anger and grief. They learned to communicate with a brutal honesty that was both painful and liberating. Mark meticulously shared every detail of his co-parenting arrangements with Clara, involving Sarah in discussions about Emily's schooling, her health, her milestones. Sarah, in turn, began to cautiously build a relationship with Emily, starting with supervised visits, then gradually moving to more informal interactions. It was awkward at first, navigating the complexities of their blended family, but slowly, tentatively, a new dynamic began to emerge. Emily, a perceptive and sweet child, eventually understood that Sarah was important to her father, and that a new baby was coming. Sarah, seeing Emily's genuine excitement for her half-sibling, felt her heart soften further. The arrival of their baby, a beautiful, healthy girl they named Lily, brought a fresh wave of challenges and joys. Mark was an incredibly hands-on father, his devotion to Lily an undeniable balm to Sarah's still healing heart. And Emily, now a big sister, adored Lily, showering her with affection and innocent enthusiasm. Their life was no longer the picture of perfection Sarah had once envisioned. It was messy, complicated, and filled with unexpected challenges. But it was also real, honest, and filled with a deeper, more profound love than she had ever thought possible. They were a blended family, a testament to resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring power of human connection. Sarah had learned that love wasn't about a flawless story, but about navigating the imperfections, confronting the betrayals, and choosing, every single day, to rebuild, to heal, and to move forward, together. Her life had indeed changed forever, but in ways she never could have anticipated. It had changed into something stronger, more authentic, and ultimately, more beautiful. If you found yourself deeply moved by Sarah's story, or if you faced similar heart-wrenching dilemmas in your own life, please share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. Your experiences and insights are invaluable. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more profound journeys into the complexities of life, love, and parenthood.